My whole life, I was told I was too independent. At first, it sounded like a compliment, like I was strong, capable, someone who didn't need help. But as the years went on, I realized it was just another way to keep me at arm's length, to exclude me quietly while my parents lavished their love and money on my brother. The day they told me they had given him $85,000 to buy a house, and said I was too independent to need any help, was the moment everything inside me broke. Not loudly or dramatically, but in a cold, silent way that settled deep in my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But instead, I just closed my eyes and swallowed the bitter truth. To them, I was someone who didn't need anything. And that was their excuse to ignore me. Growing up, my brother was the golden child, the one who never had to struggle. He was given things I could only dream of, brand new clothes, the best gadgets, cars, trips, and eventually, a home. Meanwhile, I paid my own way through college, worked late shifts, and learned to be self-sufficient out of necessity. It was always like that. Every achievement of mine was met with a polite nod. Every need I expressed was met with a "you're fine," or "you're strong." My brother? He got a pat on the back, and everything he asked for. I remember one time when I was 18, barely scraping by in college, needing help with a car repair. I called my parents, my voice trembling. "Can you help me with the garage bill?" I asked. Mom sighed. "You're so independent. Honey, we think you should try to handle it yourself." But then 2 weeks later, my brother called with a broken phone. Within hours, my parents had sent him a brand new iPhone without hesitation. I learned very quickly that independence in my family was not about strength. It was about being invisible. Years passed, and I buried my resentment deep. I told myself I was fine. I built my own life, paid my own bills, and rarely asked for anything. I wanted to believe that one day, they would see me differently. Then came the text. "Your brother is buying a house. We're helping him with the down payment. $85,000. We're so proud of him." I stared at the message, my hands shaking. $85,000. And me? I was told I didn't need help. I thought about all the nights I worked double shifts just to pay rent. All the times I skipped meals to save money for textbooks. All the moments I wished for just a little support. But they called it independence. That night, I blocked them from all my accounts, social media, bank accounts, everything. I needed to protect myself from the hurt. At first, it felt freeing. No more passive-aggressive comments. No more guilt trips. I had my peace. But it wasn't just about blocking them. It was about reclaiming my worth. You might think cutting off your family would be the hardest thing. But sometimes it's the only way to heal. Months passed. I threw myself into work, made new friends, and built a life they didn't know about. I kept my apartment small but cozy, filled with the things I loved, not the things they wanted me to have. I watched from afar as my brother posted photos of his new house, our parents in every picture, smiling and proud. I never liked those posts. I never commented. One day, I received a message from my mother. "We miss you, sweetie. We hope you're okay." I didn't reply. They didn't understand that I was okay. I was better than okay. I was free. When my father fell ill, they tried to call me for help, but I had already locked every door. I watched quietly as they turned to my brother, hoping he could fix what they'd broken. At the next family gathering, the silence between us was heavy. I finally told them everything, how their words, their favoritism, and their neglect had pushed me away. They were shocked, confused, and for the first time, truly sorry. But my forgiveness came on my terms. I had learned a lesson they never taught me. Your worth isn't defined by how much help you get, but by how fiercely you protect your heart. If this story so far is hitting home for you, please like and subscribe to our channel for more real, raw stories about family, betrayal, and healing. Your experience matters. I never wanted to believe my parents could be so blind. Blind to the sacrifices I made. Blind to the silent battles I fought alone. I thought love meant fairness. Meant seeing your children equally. But what I learned was far colder. Love in my family was measured in dollars and favors. And I was never part of the equation. After I blocked them from everything, I felt a strange mix of relief and loneliness. Relief because I was finally free from their judgment. Loneliness because cutting off the only family I had ever known left a gaping hole I didn't know how to fill. My phone was silent. No messages. No calls. No demands. The quiet was deafening. At first, I thought maybe I had made a mistake. Maybe I should forgive and forget. Reach out. Mend the broken bridges. But every time I considered it, the memory of that $85,000 text burned through me like acid. How could I pretend everything was okay when they didn't even see me? When they didn't even try to see me? I decided to build a life they couldn't ignore, but more importantly, a life I could be proud of. I found a new job at a company that valued me for who I was, not for the name I carried. I threw myself into my work, staying late, taking on projects no one else wanted. Slowly, I saved enough to move into a small apartment, one that was mine and mine alone. No parents' approval needed. No brother's shadow looming over me. Evenings were the hardest. I'd sit alone with a cup of tea, the silence of my apartment pressing in on me. But I used that silence to think, to dream, to plan. I was determined to rise, to prove not to them, but to myself, that I could thrive without their help. One night, as I scrolled through social media, I saw a photo of my brother's new house, the one bought with my parents' money. The picture was perfect, bright rooms, a manicured lawn, laughter frozen in a snapshot. My parents beamed beside him, their pride on full display. I didn't like it. I didn't comment or react. I just put the phone down and closed my eyes, feeling a pang of something I hadn't let myself feel for a long time. Envy. Envy for what I never had. For the warmth I never received. For the support that was always out of my reach. But then I reminded myself why I stopped asking. Time passed. My parents' messages slowed, but never completely stopped. We miss you. Hope you're doing well. Your brother could use you right now. Each message was a test. Would I respond? Would I open that door? I didn't. I had built walls, not just around my phone and accounts, but around my heart. Those walls protected me from more pain than I cared to admit. Then came the phone call I dreaded. My father was hospitalized. I felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Concern battled with anger. Fear tangled with old resentment. When my mother called, pleading for help, I stayed silent. I had already done my part by blocking their access. It was their choice to ignore me for so long. Now, I could afford to watch them stumble on their own. I wasn't cruel. I was just done being the only one who cared. When they found out I had blocked their access to emergency funds in my name, it was like the world shifted. Desperate calls came flooding in. Texts marked urgent. Emails begging for reconciliation. But I remained unmoved. I had waited too long for them to see me, to hear me, and they never did. Now, it was their turn to feel invisible. At the next family gathering, an uneasy Thanksgiving, I sat at the table with them, the air thick with tension. My mother's eyes were swollen from crying. My father looked tired and frail. My brother, who usually dominated the room with his loud presence, was uncharacteristically quiet. The silence stretched between us like a rope ready to snap. Finally, my mother broke it. "Why did you shut us out?" she asked softly, her voice breaking. I looked around the table, seeing faces I'd known all my life, but feeling like a stranger. "I was tired," I said. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being told I was too independent to need help, as if needing help was a bad thing. I told them everything. The nights I cried alone. The bills I paid by myself. The dreams I gave up because I never asked for support. Their faces shifted from confusion to guilt to something I hadn't expected, regret. For the first time, I saw the cracks in their armor, the realization that their love had hurt me deeply. But forgiveness wasn't immediate. I didn't give it freely. I gave it on my terms, after I saw real change. After I saw them try to understand me. After I saw that they wanted to rebuild what they had broken. They needed to know that independence isn't about being alone. It's about being strong enough to choose who stays in your life. Today, I live on my terms. I'm no longer the invisible child. I'm no longer just the independent one. I'm whole. Broken pieces and all. If this story speaks to you, if you've ever felt invisible or overlooked by the people you love, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your story matters. You're not alone. Have you ever been the too independent one? Left out in favor of someone else? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. Because sometimes, the hardest battles are fought within our own families. There were nights when the silence felt heavier than any argument. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how things had come to this. How the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had made me feel like an outsider in my own family. I replayed every memory where I raised my hand for help and was told, gently but firmly, that I didn't need it. "You're independent," they said, like it was a shield to protect themselves from guilt, but a sword that pierced my heart. I was independent all right, because I had no choice. That independence forced me to grow up fast. It taught me how to navigate life on my own, how to keep my head above water, even when I felt like drowning. But it also taught me to hide my pain behind a brave smile, to swallow my loneliness because no one was coming to rescue me. I remember one winter evening, a few months after blocking them out completely. I was sitting at my tiny kitchen table, the heater humming softly in the background, the only light coming from my laptop screen. I was working a second job, tired and cold, but proud because I was making it on my own, even if they didn't see it. That night, a message popped up on my screen from my brother. "Hey, can you help me out? Rent's due, and I'm a little short." I stared at those words, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to say yes. I wanted to be the sister who helped, the family member who didn't keep score. But the other part, the part that had been ignored and overlooked for so long, whispered, "No." I closed the message without replying. It was the moment I realized my independence wasn't just about surviving. It was about protecting myself from the people who had already hurt me. Over the following months, I watched my brother struggle more than I'd ever known. The big house bought with their money was full of cracks, financial cracks, emotional cracks. I saw photos on social media of late-night repair projects and empty cupboards. I heard through mutual friends that he was constantly calling our parents for bailouts. But I didn't step in. Not yet. I wasn't cold or heartless. I was waiting for them to recognize what they had done to me and to ask me the right way to be part of their lives again. And then, one day, my mother sent a message I never expected. "We miss you. We want you back." I read it a dozen times, but the walls I built were strong. I replied with one word: "Why?" No answer came. One evening, nearly a year after everything had broken, my father called me directly. His voice was weak, trembling with the weight of sickness and regret. "I'm sorry," he said. "I never meant to hurt you." That was all I needed to hear. The first crack in the armor that held us apart. But even then, I knew healing wouldn't be quick. It wouldn't be easy. It would take time, honesty, and real change. I told him I wasn't ready to forgive yet. He understood. Family dinners became less tense after that. Not perfect, but honest. I shared my truth with them, the loneliness, the struggles, the moments I wished they had been there. My parents listened, really listened. For the first time, my brother, too, seemed different, humble, quieter, maybe even ashamed. They realized that independence wasn't a burden I chose to carry, but a wound they helped create. Slowly, I started letting them back in. But this time, I set boundaries. I wouldn't be invisible anymore. I wouldn't let their judgment shape my worth. And I flourished. I built a life filled with people who saw me, who valued me, who supported me unconditionally. The house I bought was small, but it was mine. Every brick was a testament to my strength, not to the money handed to me, but to the sweat, tears, and late nights I endured to get here. If you've ever felt overlooked or invisible in your own family, know this: you are seen. Your worth is not defined by others' approval or their money. It's defined by your courage to stand up, to protect yourself, and to build your own path. And if this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe to our channel, because your story matters. And together, we're not alone. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been the independent one in your family, the one left out, the one expected to carry everything alone? How did you find your strength? Share your story in the comments below. Let's support each other through the hardest battles. After that first honest conversation, things didn't magically fix themselves. Far from it. Healing a family takes more than words. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to face the wounds that have festered for years. I started showing up at family dinners again, but on my terms. I wasn't the eager daughter desperate for approval anymore. I was the woman who had fought hard for her place in the world, and I wasn't willing to settle for less. One evening, I arrived at my parents' house carrying a small casserole and a box of my favorite tea. As I stepped inside, the familiar smell of home mixed with the new tension hanging in the air. My father sat quietly at the table, eyes tired but hopeful. My mother smiled nervously, and my brother avoided my gaze. It was awkward. Yes, but there was also something unspoken between us, a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. We ate dinner in mostly silence at first. The clink of silverware against plates filled the room more than words. But after a while, my mother finally spoke. "I'm sorry I didn't see how hard you were trying," she said softly, tears in her eyes. "We thought because you were independent, you didn't need us. But I see now how wrong that was." Her apology hit me like a wave, a mixture of relief, sadness, and a little anger. I wanted to forgive her, to believe her, but I also wanted to be sure that things wouldn't slip back into the old patterns. "I needed you, Mom," I said quietly, "but you told me I didn't." The room was still again, But this time, it felt different. Less heavy. More real. My brother looked up. Voice barely above a whisper. I was spoiled. He admitted. I didn't understand what you went through. I'm sorry. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter. One where we could finally start rebuilding. Not on false promises, but on honesty and respect. But the real test came months later. When I was offered a promotion at work. A chance to finally step into a role I had dreamed about for years. It was everything I'd worked for. But it came with a catch. It required relocating to a new city. Far from the family I was just beginning to reconnect with. I wrestled with the decision. Part of me wanted to stay close. To keep healing those broken ties. But another part knew I had to keep moving forward. For myself. When I told my parents and brother about the opportunity, their reaction surprised me. My mother smiled, genuine this time, and said, "We want you to be happy, whatever you decide." My brother nodded in agreement. "You deserve this. You've worked so hard." For once, I felt seen, not as the independent one, but as their daughter and sister. Moving away was bittersweet. I missed the familiarity of home. But I also relished the fresh start. I found an apartment with big windows and sunlight pouring in. I decorated it with art that spoke to my soul. Plants that I watered every morning. And shelves filled with books that reminded me of my strength. I kept my parents updated. But on my terms. Phone calls were fewer. But deeper. Texts were exchanged honestly, without the old games or hidden resentments. And slowly, I felt the walls I built around my heart soften. Years passed. I achieved milestones I never thought possible. I bought a car with my own money. I traveled to places I'd only dreamed of. I built friendships that felt like family. But through it all, I carried a quiet truth. That sometimes, the hardest love is the love you give yourself. If you're still with me, hearing this story, I want you to know you're not alone. Sometimes, family isn't just the people who share your blood. It's the ones who show up, who listen, who love you without conditions. And sometimes, family is learning to be your own biggest supporter, your fiercest protector. If this story has touched you, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your story matters. And together, we can heal. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to distance yourself from family to protect your heart? What did you learn about love and independence in the process? Share your story in the comments below. Because healing starts with being heard. After moving to the new city, I was forced to confront a truth I'd long buried. Independence isn't about cutting people out forever. It's about choosing who deserves to be part of your life. And sometimes, that choice is painful. At first, the distance between my family and me felt vast. I was building a new life. But every now and then, a pang of loneliness would hit me hard. Especially when holidays rolled around. I missed the familiar chaos of family dinners. Even with all the tension, but I held on to the lessons I'd learned. To protect my heart, and to never let anyone make me feel less than I am. One winter, after months of silence, I received a call from my mother. Her voice was fragile. "Your father's health is worse," she said quietly. "We don't know how long he has." Hearing this shattered something inside me. But I didn't let it break me. Instead, I booked a flight home. The reunion was bittersweet. My father, frail but smiling, welcomed me with a weak embrace. I realized then that no matter the distance, the ties of family pull strong. Over the next weeks, I spent hours by his side, talking about everything and nothing. We shared stories, laughter, and tears. In those moments, I forgave, not to erase the past, but to free myself from its weight. Before my father passed, he held my hand and whispered, "I'm proud of you." Those words, simple and sincere, meant more than any gift or favor ever could. I understood then that love is imperfect and messy, but it's real when it's chosen, not just given. After his passing, my relationship with my mother and brother slowly healed. We became more honest, more present for each other. I finally felt like family, not just a distant, independent one, but someone truly seen. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the people who hurt us the most also teach us our greatest lessons. My parents taught me the power of resilience. My brother taught me forgiveness. And myself, I taught the hardest lesson of all, to love without losing who I am. If you've ever felt cast aside or too independent by your own family, remember this: your worth isn't defined by how much help you get, but by the strength it takes to stand tall anyway. If this story has touched your heart, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your voice matters. And together, we can heal. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you experienced family betrayal or been pushed away for being strong? How did you find your way back to peace? Share your story in the comments below. Let's support each other through the hardest battles. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything, I realize that my story isn't just about family betrayal or feeling overlooked. It's about discovering my own worth. Even when those who were supposed to show it didn't, I learned that being called too independent was never a weakness. It was my armor, my survival, my quiet rebellion against being invisible. My parents gave my brother $85,000 for a house, while I was left to fend for myself. But that didn't break me. It made me stronger. And the day I blocked them from all my accounts was the day I finally took control of my life. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. I forgave them, not because they earned it, but because I needed to heal. Family isn't perfect. Sometimes, the ones we love hurt us the most. But we have the power to choose how to move forward. If you've ever felt unseen, unloved, or too independent in your own family, remember this: your worth isn't tied to anyone else's approval. You are enough, just as you are. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like and subscribe to our channel. And please, share your own story in the comments. Because healing begins when we speak our truth, and when we know we are not alone.